Welcome, welcome, welcome. Well, again, folks, the New York Mets finding ways to losing to the Milwaukee Brewers 3-2. And folks, it is getting worse and worse and worse. The New York Mets now have lost 9 out of their last 10 games. Folks, this is something that is not looking good for Mets fans, not looking good for the team. Uh, I look at trends. I try to look past what is on the surface. On the surface, the New York Mets have lost 9 out of their last 10. Since June 1st, the New York Mets are 27 and 31. For all of you who want that bigger sample size, folks, that's a heck of a lot of time. A 60 game sample size, a third of a year, a third of a season right there. The Mets are a bad team. 4 or 5 games under 500. And if you dissect a couple weeks, 3 weeks, the Mets are like 10 games under 500. So depending on what you look at with the Mets, their offense, their starting pitching, obviously in the past it was the bullpen that was addressed at the deadline. Every single thing when it comes to the New York Mets, when you analyze, is bad. Their record's bad. Their starting pitchers are bad. Besides David Peterson, their starters average 4 2/3 innings. That is pathetic. That is putrid. I mean, since mid-June, the starters have the 26th worst ERA in all of baseball. That carried us in the beginning of the year. The starters ERA, the starters were putting in a better performance. And the thing that really kills me is everybody said, you wait till Sean Manaea comes back. You wait, especially when Kodai Senga got hurt in June. Kodai Senga is going to be healthy. Frankie Montas, he's not great, but he's an extra arm. Folks, the scary thing right now is the New York Mets are completely healthy. There is no excuses right now. We don't have an excuse. It's not like we're waiting for Juan Soto or Pete Alonso or Francisco Lindor. We are not waiting for anybody to come back from the injured list. We are no longer waiting for any starting pitcher to come off the injured list. For the most part, our team is healthy. Now, I know we have peripheral injuries. Every team does. Every team does. But for the most part, we have our key players, our guys we are playing the most money, our highest salary paid players are on the field. So, folks, not good, not good, not good. Now, another thing that is really kind of alarming, really kind of striking is, the Mets played a year-long stretch from June 1st last year to June 1st this year. They had the best record in baseball. I mean, the Mets literally just fell off a freaking cliff, right? So who do you blame? I mean, right now, however many fingers you have, you could blame everybody. You could blame Carlos Mendoza. You could blame the batters. You could blame the starting pitchers. You could blame the bullpen. I mean, you could blame. There is blame to go around. But I'll tell you this. I will tell you this. If we continue to trend in this direction with a $340 million freaking payroll, heads are going to roll sooner rather than later. Even this stretch that we are on right now, losing 9 out of 10, and again, finding ways to lose, getting one hit the other day, pathetic. And the one hit you did have for Juan Soto, the body language that he displayed was honestly disgusting. I mean, he hits a home run, doesn't run to first base, finally gets the home run. They're still being one hit. They're still losing. They still have a lot to go, and the guy's smiling like he just hit a game-winning home run. I mean, the Mets right now are displaying traits, habits, everything that a losing team displays, right? And the comments from Carlos Mendoza, oh my God. Oh my freaking God. But let me just say this. I have to say this, folks. If you can continue to like the videos, if you want more videos, like the videos. If you are new, Mets fans, baseball fans, please subscribe to our channel. It does help out the channel. All right. Carlos Mendoza, the other day, it was asked of Carlos Mendoza, what is going wrong with the team? What do we need to change? And the thing that he identified was beyond scary. Beyond scary. And I can't believe he said this in public. In fact, maybe he said it on accident, and I hope he did. I hope he did, because if comments like this, he's not going to have a job soon. Not going to have a job soon. And he basically said during the game, we are not making the correct adjustments time after time. Now, in the game, who is responsible for making these in-game adjustments? Who is in charge of the team? That would be Mr. Carlos Mendoza. And now, Carlos Mendoza, you openly admit that you are failing in the game, and you openly admit the reason why we are losing is because of your lack of in-game adjustments. Now, I know we have hitting coaches not doing their job. We have pitching coaches not doing their job with the starters. I mean, there's all blame to go around, as we said before. And the pitching lab, this year, I mean, the effect of the pitching lab has completely dissipated, right? Frankie Montas was this year's experiment, this year's Luis Severino, this year's version of Sean Manaea. It's not working out. It is not freaking working out, right? And honestly, go back to my video in December. I was extremely disappointed giving him $17 million a season. I never liked that move. Never liked that move. And I was never a fan of the makeup of Frankie Montas. I was never a fan. So even if they could somehow tweak his repertoire, I just was not a fan of the makeup, his mentality. Again, this game, again, is a large part mental, and the Mets right now are getting mentally pummeled. The New York Mets are one of the easiest teams to beat, right? The other team, you go to Carlos Mendoza in game adjustments. So again, you are telling the world that you are being outmanaged at nauseum. And again, that is unacceptable. Unacceptable. And, on our last homestand, you have the fans going nuts. You crazy supporting this team, right? And the Mets fans provided so much needed energy to this team, and that helped the Mets get out to a phenomenal record. Start at home. The Mets record at home in the beginning of the season, the first couple of months, was ridiculously good, right? Ridiculously good. But it doesn't seem like this team couldn't get started by themselves. I mean, I've heard a couple people on the radio these last couple of days. I've heard it a couple times. The Mets, I think Boomer Esiason said it best. These players are overpaid, and their performance right now is vastly underwhelming, right? And that is not how you want to be identified right now, as an overpaid, underwhelming player, right? But that's what the Mets organization right now has provided the fans. And that gets me sick. That gets me sick. 2023 was a ridiculously hard year for New York Mets fans, coming off of a 2022 season when we won 101 games. You want to build on that success. In 2024, our expectations were low, and we came 2 games short of the World Series. So again, we wanted to build on that success. But the sad thing is, this team looks nowhere near capable of competing with other teams. The likes of Milwaukee. I mean, other teams have more heart, desire, fire. I mean, our team does not seem like that. And, you trace it back. You can trace it back to a couple of things. I hear a lot of people saying, when Lindor went down, the Mets went sideways. And also, too, other people are debating, has Lindor's toe ever healed? Now, that's also, another alarming thing. I don't think, maybe his toe didn't heal. Maybe it did heal. But the fact that he has played compensating for such a large period of time, I think that has thrown him off. And even if it has healed, now he destroyed any semblance of momentum that he had the first 2 months. Would have been better. 6 weeks, go on the sidelines, fully recover, and then come back a healthy player. Stats, nothing will be hurt. You'll still be coming back. Now, obviously, he went an 0 for 31, slumps and having trouble moving around. I mean, the way I see Francisco Lindor move around shortstop, it's there's something not right, folks. There's something not right with Francisco Lindor. I don't know if he's still hurt, but he's not playing like the type of ball player that I'm used to. He's not running out ground balls when he hits an infield. He's not, he's pulling up before first base. When he gets balls thrown down from the catcher, he's so many are going past him, like 2 in the last week, going into the outfield. He's not getting his glove down. There's just not something right. When Brett Beatty made that error a couple games ago, he had a chance to get himself in position to at least stop the ball, and he let that ball go into the outfield and not cost the Mets another game a couple games back. But all these plays are plays that Lindor makes easy. The hustle, the momentum, everything Lindor gives effort-wise is always usually 100%. But I'm not seeing the effort there. I'm not seeing the hustle. And if he's hurt, let him get it. Let him get better. Let him get better. Let him get better, because we see the Mets aren't functioning as an organization, as a team, when this guy struggles. I know it's sad that one guy could deter the whole team, but you saw last year when he struggled the first 2 months, you put him in a leadoff spot, he turns it on. The positioning of the lineup, I'm not sure why it mattered that much, but to Lindor, I guess it did. It did. And the Mets were able to turn it on like a light switch. This year, June 1st, opposite. You turn it off. He gets hurt, and the team is dysfunctional. Now, there's a lot more than Francisco Lindor, but if he is the, so to say, so to speak, he is the captain, even if it's not official, but guys look up to him. Guys look up to him as a high-paid player, a guy who's been on the Mets for quite a long time now. I think only Nimmo has been longer. Nimmo and Alonso, but it's just it's not going well, folks. Even Pete Alonso right now has been struggling mightily, and I'm hearing Pete Alonso. Pete might have to worry if Pete continues this trend dipping under 260, in the next couple games. He dips under 260 with that batting average, and although he has a decent amount of home runs, I mean, he's not set to have over 40 home runs. He's done better with runners in scoring position, but these last 2 months, if he doesn't turn it on, that could certainly hurt Pete. When you look at Pete's average amount of at-bats between home runs, drastically changed since 2019. 2019, I believe he averaged a home run every 11 at-bats. This year, he's averaging a home run every 17. A little better than last year. Last year, he averaged a home run every 18 and a half at-bats. But this year and last, that's his worst in terms of home runs per at-bat. So, I didn't complain because he was hitting more for average. He was hitting more situationally. He was hitting more with runners in scoring position. But he has just had such a terrible, last 30 games that, it just has really washed out the beginning of his season, which was magnificent. Magnificent. So it just shows you how bad he's playing, that beginning of the season has just already been canceled. So Pete Alonso not functioning as that player. Obviously, we just spoke about Francisco Lindor, Brandon Nimmo's. Besides the last week, besides the last 10 games, he was okay. He was okay. But your top plays that you were relying on just not cutting it. And then the bottom of the lineup has always been struggling. So the offense right there, big problems. And, the key in the first half of the season, you had these pitchers doing a great job and us getting a little bit of offense and somehow managing to shut the door and win games 3-2, 2-1. Now, the starting pitchers aren't providing any length. Today, Senga, 4 1/3, 4 2/3 inning. I mean, we are getting no length. It is just miraculous that, in a bad way, that every single start has just been underwhelming in terms of what these pitchers are giving you in terms of length. I mean, every single game you're underwhelmed with the length. You can't win consistently. You can't win anywhere with the Mets not hitting, not getting length from their pitchers. And the only thing we improved at the deadline, besides Mullins, was the bullpen, and you can't really utilize that strength. I mean, go figure, go figure. And it just really shows you that the New York Mets invested $340 million, invested prospects getting a bullpen, improving their bullpen. And this is how the team repays the organization for not trading them, for investing in this team. It's not like we sat on our backs and did nothing. I mean, a lot of players, a lot of writers said that the Mets had a top 3 trade deadline. Some say top 5, but nonetheless, the Mets were active. Nonetheless, the Mets did give up prospects. Nonetheless, the Mets were aggressive. And then the Mets, this is how they repaid. This is how the New York Mets players go out. They lose 9 out of the next 10. I mean, folks, this team, again, no heart, no fight, no desire. These are the intangibles that you really need. Does this team have the intangibles to win the World Series? Does this team have it? A lot of people cannot define what is it. Last year, you saw the Mets trending in the right direction, as I mentioned earlier. This year, you see them trending in the opposite direction. You look at teams like the Brewers and say, all right, that organization, they find ways to win. Phillies, now they're jumping out to a 3.5 game lead. They're finding ways to win. They got players in the team. Kyle Schwarber is approaching 40 home runs. They got players carrying their offense, and then they got pitchers who are giving them length. They got pitchers who have talent. And then they also have, Andrew Painter in the minors, who's, literally the next big ace. So, and the Phillies have a top-rated farm system. That's the team that we're competing with right now for the National League East. So the Mets have a lot right now to not be happy about, and folks, a change has to happen almost immediately. Almost immediately. What could that be? What could that be? What's going to jumpstart this team? Now, you hear all over the radio, and, I think I heard Evan saying it in terms of Aaron Boone in the Yankees, but I think you're going to start hearing this more and more, and I've heard it from a lot of you. Fire the manager. Fire Carlos Mendoza. Carlos Mendoza is not helping out the situation right now. He's not. He's not. It's his second year, and I think that's why he gets a lot of grace, because last year got to 2 games short of the World Series. But in my opinion, I mentioned before, there's no excuses. We have our starters healthy. We have a complete bullpen, and we have a lot of talent on the offense, right? So right now, you have Carlos Mendoza being exposed, in my opinion. Last year, you know what? The bullpen wasn't good. You know what? We didn't have that extra bat. We didn't have protection for Pete. All right. You know what? We were in our starting pitching. Senga was hurt. There were a lot of excuses. There was a lot of, I would say cover for Carlos Mendoza. This year, the cover's completely off. He is exposed right now. Being exposed. You don't have those extra leaders in the clubhouse like Iglesias to help manage the team. You don't have excuses around like, only if we would have had Senga, only if we would have had a better bullpen, only if we would have had help for Diaz in the 8th, only if we would have had a lefty out of the bullpen, only if we would have had protection for Pete, only if that. All the ifs right now. You want to blame David Stearns, but David Stearns, again, he checkmarked all of the ifs. You don't have a center fielder. You got a center fielder. You got a center fielder. And the thing is, when you're a manager and you have coaches under you, you got to make sure you develop your team. The young guys. Who the hell was developed this year? Who the hell was developed? Pitchers. Who the hell was developed? I mean, David Stearns, you could put blame on him. But again, I think he spent $340 million. Some of the moves weren't his. Some of the moves with Steve Cohen. And those expending that much money on certain players, uh, again, again, you got to spend money on the right players. You got to spend money. You're going to dole out $800 million. You better be damn sure you're spending it on a player that will run through a wall, that will put out max effort despite making a ridiculous amount of money. Now, is Juan Soto putting out max effort? No, it's painfully obvious, right? And again, when you pay guys a ridiculous amount of money, like the Mets did Max Scherzer, Verlander a couple years ago, and guys see that these big paid players aren't putting out max effort, how does that affect some of the other players on the team, right? It shouldn't, because those players, the better they play, they can earn money themselves. So it shouldn't have an effect. But we are all again human beings, and I know back to you know, I always go back to how I was taught to play ball, and coaches always told everybody else, there's always going to be teams that have more talent. There's always going to be teams you go against that have better players. There's always going to be teams that have X, Y, and Z. You can make all the excuses in the world, but the only thing that you can control is your effort. The Mets right now, they're not putting out max effort. They're not playing smart. Carlos Mendoza not making the right decisions. He's being outmanaged. The New York Mets right now, again, they're playing like a losing team. They're acting like a losing organization. And right now, they are beyond embarrassing. And again, you're going to go to leadership. You're going to go to leadership, and leadership, it's past the trading deadline. So anything that happens right now is going to fall on leadership. And is sparking the team, is Carlos Mendoza's firing going to spark the team? I still think that it's still too early to fire Carlos Mendoza. Although the Mets right now have just played so beyond bad, right? We don't know internally. Like I really think right now David Stearns has checked off all the excuses and left his guy exposed. And I think right now we're seeing an exposed manager who's 27-31 over the last third of the season, and over the last couple of weeks, much, much worse. Much, much worse. One of the worst teams in baseball in the last couple of weeks. And again, since mid to late June, we can't pitch, we can't hit. We're the bottom category in a lot of offensive stats and a lot of starting pitching stats. And it's just not good. It's not good. All right, folks, let me know your take. Let me know your take. And I like to know. Obviously, I want to know what the frustrations are. I want to know what's going to change this mess. What do we have to do to change this mess? What are you identifying? I'm identifying a lot of lack of. I'm not seeing our guys care right now. I'm not seeing our guys care, and it's not something I want to say, but it's just really effort. You can see it. You can see it jump right off the television screen. You really can. So can lack of effort. You can see that as well, and that's what's really jumping off the page to me. Let me know. Let me know what everybody thinks. It's tough to watch. It is really tough. I was expecting, a very strong performance this year, a very strong performance, and we're getting nothing but that. So again, let me know what you think. I will speak to everybody soon. Last week before that, we did a lot of live streams. So if you're not a subscriber, subscribe so you get notifications. Turn that bell on. Again, hit that like button. Do all the good stuff. I do appreciate it. We appreciate it. And let's go Mets. Again, my approach after the trade deadline was we're gonna ride this all the way to the playoffs. Hopefully, win the World Series, go and coast into the offseason, continue to improve the team. But again, this whole season is turning ugly, but could get really ugly really quick. And I mentioned what's going to turn this around. Could it be a firing of somebody, calls Mendoza, hitting coaches, pitching coaches, or Are you going to bring up some of the starting pitching help from the minor league, some of the big young guns? I think that's probably going to be the likeliest scenario. But I would be very aggressive. I would DFA. I would DFA. I would make some pretty hard moves right now because you have to send a message. This is unacceptable. And, I don't know how much these team meetings help, but Francisco Lindor, Juan Soto, Pete Alonso literally have to take leadership, ownership of this team. Lindor and Soto specifically, those two are signed here. Nimmo as well, signed here for the next, for the foreseeable future. So those guys have an invested interest in making this team into a winner right now. All right, folks, I'll talk to you soon. Have a good night.